Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Shooting Rabbits in a Barrel, a podcast brought to you by Scarecrow Consultants. Today, once again, I am joined by Professor Jon Holt, who's back on the podcast. How are you, Jon?
Not too bad, thanks, Jess. So I think the last time we did this must have been about a year ago, because the last time I did, I started by saying yesterday was the hottest day of the year, and today is the hottest day ever in the history of mankind.
It is.
There we go.
So we were going to do this yesterday, but I was just couldn't string a sentence together. It was too hot.
Too damn hot. And I'm hot to begin with, Jess.
Wow.
So it's even worse for me.
Yeah. So we're doing this at the very early time of about 9:30 in the morning before it gets too hot. So listeners, we hope you're listening from cooler climes. Well, I'm thrilled to have you back for yet another story. I have no idea what you because I actually have no idea what you're going to share at all. Usually I have some vague idea. But to remind our listeners, we ask our guests two questions. Jon doesn't need reminding, but we'll remind new listeners perhaps. What story would you like to share with us today, and what systems engineering lesson did you learn? So Jon, what story would you like to share with us today?
Well, Jess, I mean, I'm going to surprise you with the title of this one. This one's called Dead Man's Coat. Okay. And it involves, I have, as you're aware, there are many things I like in life, like cats and camper vans. I also like big coats,
Yes, I did know that about you. Yeah.
So this involves the origin of my current favourite coat, and a lesson that I learned because of it. So, I mean, this story goes back probably 20 years. I can't remember exactly when, but let's say 20 years ago. And prior to that, I've always been, since I was a teenager, a fan of big black overcoats, as you're aware. And they weren't always the sort of the peak of sartorial elegance that you're used to seeing me wearing, Jess. They used to be a bit scrappy and a bit scruffy. And I bought one when I was about 15, and I must have had it for at least 10 years. And it got really horrible. It had seen some things that nothing should see, let alone an overcoat. But I loved this overcoat, and I wore it for years and years and years. And so people started to associate me with this really horrible, scrappy overcoat. But I loved it, and it was falling apart, and I kept repairing it and so on. So at the time, I was married at the time, and I think we only had one child at the time. And I was at my then wife's grandparents' house, and they live in Oxfordshire, so quite a posh area. And they used to passive aggressively mock me for this coat that I wore. But anyway, one day, we went round there, and they said, "Oh, that horrible coat." They didn't put it quite like this. They said, "That horrible coat that you often wear, it's gone a bit mangy." They said, "Oh, we might have." They said, "The woman next door is doing a clear out. She's a widow. She's doing a clear out, and she's getting rid of some of her husband's stuff. And there's a coat that's exactly like yours, but nice."
Oh, okay, but nice.
Would you be interested? So I said, "Yeah, free coat, why not? Worst case, I say I'd love it and take it and then just donate it to charity if it's horrible." Okay. So we go around next door, and they said, "Oh, the coat's upstairs on the bed." So I said, "Oh, where's?" They said, "Go upstairs. I think it's the second on the left," something like that. And they said, "It's the second on the left." So I said, "Okay." And they said, "Yeah, make sure don't go into any of the other rooms because it's a neighbour. It's the second on the left. So go in there." So I go in and then laid out on the bed. Sure enough, it's this beautiful overcoat, exactly the same as my scrappy one, but I would say if I was buying it on eBay, near mint condition. And I tried it on, and it fit like a glove, but it fit like a coat. Beautifully well, like a coat. And there were shoes and all sorts of stuff there. But anyway, so I had the coat and I tried it on, and I thought this is perfect because it's literally exactly the same, but brand new. So I thought this was marvellous. So I went back downstairs and I said, "What do you think?" And they're all going, "Oh, well, yeah, that's great." My wife's looking a bit sheepish at this point. And then, so Grandma said, "You didn't go into the other room, did you?" So I said, no, of course. And I went, "Well, I was up." She said, "Well, he's still up there." And I said, "Who?" She said, and then this widow said, "My husband." And I thought, "Hang on, you're a widow, aren't you?" That was swift work. She said, "No, he'd only died the day before, and he was upstairs in the other bedroom." on the
And
bed.
you're already going through his things, John.
So I'm there, still slightly warm, with residual body heat, in the dead man's coat. So hence, we always refer to this as the dead man's coat. And but yeah, so I picked it up, and he was in the next room, bless him. And so when she said she saw that stuff because her husband recently died. I'd taken recently to be measured in months, not hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so I had this rather beautiful, if with slightly dark history, this coat. So I wore this coat for many years. This is the origin of the dead man's coat. It's not the main point of the story. So I wore that for many years, and I'd had a couple of other coats. I did a talk for what was the IE, which is now the IET once, in Northern Ireland of all places, and it was back in the day when they used to give you gifts after you've done a talk for them. So I went to Norway, did this, and normally it's like a paperweight with IE on it or whatever. And they gave me this £100 Marks and Spencer voucher, so this lovely new coat, thinking to replace the other one, but it never quite did it, and I never quite. Oh, I just didn't feel comfortable in the brand new coat. I like the dead man's coat, so I had this beautiful new coat, with the dead man's coat, and then one day on eBay I saw. And this is the coat that you've seen me wear, I still wear to this day, probably about 10 years ago. This beautiful thing called a greatcoat. So a greatcoat is what they used to wear in the army and things. So the enormous things, got all little lapels. And it's a French one with the big collars. And that's the one, in fact, it featured in one of our previous Shooting Rabbits, the infamous live one that we did. And that
coat has seen some things as well.
You've seen me, it's felt some things as well. You've seen me wear it. On a number of it. So anyway, I just got this beautiful new coat, and it's sort of tailored at the waist. It's got the big shoulders, got the big things, and the collars go up. And so I'd only worn it about the second time, and I went round to the shops where I live. The local shops are like 50 metres away. So I'd gone round there, and it was winter, and it was bitterly, bitterly cold. It was one of those really, and I got this big coat on. I was feeling quite pleased with myself, so I could put the collars up. So I'd gone round to buy milk or whatever from the local Tesco Express. And anyway, there's a homeless guy that is often outside the Tesco Express. In fact, there's normally a couple of people, but there's this homeless guy. And before people go on poking fun of homeless people or whatever, I was homeless when I was 16, so I do have empathy with the homeless. So I'm not taking the mick at homeless people or anything like that. So anyway, and he was saying he was freezing, he was in like a shell suit, and he looked at me and he went, "Oh, that looks like a warm coat." And I always say hello to him or whatever, and I went, "Oh, yeah, it is." He went, "Yeah." He says, I bet that's cosy. And I went, yeah. And there's a bit of me that goes, give him the coat. And there's an even bigger bit that says, don't give him that coat. So I just got off eBay, and it's my favourite coat ever, right? So again, a lot of these toys involve the voice at the back of my head. And then one of them said, "Oh, give him the dead man's coat." So I thought, brilliant idea. So anyway, so I bought my stuff. And I went out, and he was still there, and he was looking at me going, "Nice coat." And I'm going, "Yeah." I thought, right, have I got a surprise for you, young? And so I went back to my house where I lived. It's only 50 metres away. And I got the dead man's coat out, still in remarkably good condition and very well loved, and to me, an immaculate coat. And I thought, I'll go around and I'll give it to a homeless guy. So I went back round to the shops, and he was there shivering away in his shell suit. I thought, this is going to make his day. He's going to love this. And I said, "Oh, you said you like my coat." He said, "Yeah, it's a really lovely coat." I said, "And you're cold, aren't you?" He went, "Yeah." I said, "Look, I brought you this." And so I got out dead man's coat and I handed it to him, feeling very pleased with myself because I thought I'd done a nice thing. And he lifted it up, he looked at that, he went, "No, you're all right." And I said, "What?" He said, "You're all right, I don't really want it." I said, "Yeah, but you're freezing." He says, "No." He says, "I've got a better coat than that back at the hostel or whatever." And so I stood there in the middle of the street with my lovely coat on and the dead man's coat in my hand, attempted to give it away to the freezing homeless guy, and him spurning dead man's coat because he's got a better coat somewhere else. So I stood there like a lemon at the moment. Now at this point, I was on my way to a friend's house. We were going around for an evening of revelry anyway. So I thought, I can't turn up with a spare coat. I'll be known as Johnny Two Coats from that point on. When I did that, it doesn't take much to get a nickname, Jess.
No, it doesn't.
And so anyway, I didn't know what to do with it. And then so sometimes there's a woman that's with him, and she appeared from behind the phone box. This is how long ago there was a phone box, and she says, "Oh, I'll have it." And there's a bit of me that went, no, it's not for you, it's for him. And
Yeah,
then there's
yeah.
a bit of go, what are you doing? She shivered. So I said, yeah. She put it on. It was massive on her. It absolutely dwarfed her. Anyway, so I gave her this coat, and having had my offer of dead man's coat spurned by the homeless guy. Anyway, she took it. I didn't see her again. I don't know. Let's not read too much into that. But so that's the story of the dead man's coat that was spurned by the homeless guy when I thought I was doing a nice thing. And so yeah, there we go. That's the dead man's coat. Yes.
This really took a turn. I thought you were going to say, you took a homeless man's coat as well as a dead man's coat, and then you got like a full, you're going for like sort of full set.
Steal his shell suit.
But this was.
Put it as have it as part of the collection.
Okay, I don't know what to say to that. I'm sad for you in the coat. Why did you not give him the Marks and Spencer's coat that you didn't like? I need to question that. Did you?
I don't know, to be honest, because maybe a part of me thought I didn't like this coat. I gave him because I loved the dead man's coat.
Yeah.
I thought that had more to it. It was the Marks and Spencer's coat I always despised, and I thought that would be.
Okay, yeah. So it's like you don't know what to get somebody. You get them something that you would like.
Exactly.
That kind
yeah.
of right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. As ever, I can't wait to see how you bring this back to systems engineering. So from this tale of the dead men tell no tales about dead coats. What valuable systems engineering lesson did you learn?
Well, it's stakeholder engagement, Jess. Because now this one is actually it's not as contrived as it sounds for once. We often, as you know, we deal with we do this, context modelling. We try and put ourselves into the shoes of others, and it's very, very difficult to get right. And I think what I've certainly done it in the past. I think what a lot of systems engineers do without realising is to try and second guess a particular stakeholder's needs without actually understanding their context. And this happens a lot with, for example, requirements and needs modelling, but people introduce new requirements, particularly systems, with the best will in the world, and they go, I'll tell you what would make this system better. I'll introduce these new requirements or these new constraints. And they can often be disastrous because we make the massive assumption that we understand what somebody else or another stakeholder should say actually wants and what their needs are. And actually we don't, because we're not that stakeholder. And so the best we can do is to guess and then go back and talk to them and engage with them and say, this is what I think you want. You see, if I'd said to that guy when I came out of Tesco in the first place, would you like a coat, in brackets, constraint now, not this one, but would you like a coat? He probably would have said no. And, there'd be no story behind it. But I didn't. I thought I'd taken the guy in the shell suit, shivering, being right. The solution to that is a coat. I've got a coat. I'll give him the coat. And obviously it wasn't, because it turns out he's got a wardrobe full of coats somewhere that are far better than the dead man's coat. No respect for memory of the deceased. That's the problem with today's youth.
No respect.
And but yeah, so when we're in these situations, we can't just assume that we know where different stakeholders are coming from and what their genuine needs are. And as you know, when we teach this stuff, one of the big points that we make is it's getting to the true intent, the true meaning behind what could be a high level, in many cases, superficial requirement, or a superficial problem. Cold person, give them a coat, it seems obvious. But actually, this wasn't the solution there. And it was inappropriate, and it left me with a coat that I would have ended up going around to my friend's house with. Fortunately for me, there was somebody else there to give it to. But that, it's putting a solution in place, and this is an expression that we use often. It's putting a solution in place to a problem that doesn't exist. And clearly, I perceived that was a problem, and to him it wasn't, because if he wanted a coat, he would have worn one of his many coats that he has, wherever. So that's the lesson there, is we can't just make assumptions that we know and understand things because we think we can think like that stakeholder. We've got to actually, yes, in almost all cases, we've got to make a guess to begin with. We've got to make assumptions, but we've got to check these, and we've got to validate these assumptions and these needs before we plough on ahead and start coming up with solutions, because that way lies madness.
Yeah, because it's like the stakeholder is cold. We've made jumps ahead to say therefore they need a coat, but actually the problem was maybe they forgot their coat. It's not that they need to be given a coat, it's need to remember the one they have.
Yeah.
And like going through those different layers, investigating to get to that actual point where you go, that's the issue, is that you keep forgetting your coat. The solution to that would be a post-it note on the back of the door, not somebody handing you another coat every time you forgot yours.
Yeah, and also you got to bear in mind you don't know what the reason behind not wearing a coat is.
Yeah.
It might just be if you're gone, or it might be, you know, if you're asking people to buy you stuff from Tesco as you're going, which you typically did, you probably get bought more stuff if you look cold than if you looked all toasty, warm, and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, and again, I'm guessing there, but you know, there's stuff going on that we just don't understand, and there's a logic behind everything that we don't understand. Until we understand that, how can we possibly come up with a good, valid solution to the problem that's there in the first place? And the answer is we can't. We see this all the time, not just in engineering, but in, you know, in life, in politics and everything. Governments make decisions which seem on the surface to be for the good, and it turns out they're not. They're disastrous.
I'm glad you said the word valid, because I was thinking also then, other side of the V, or other side of the systems engineering life cycle, about validation. This is why in a project team, we can't decide, oh, this is good to go, we validated this.
Yeah.
It has to be the stakeholder, because they have to say, yes, I'm happy with this actually solves my problem. Because even though we'll put lots of time, lots of effort into understanding their problem, it's not the same as them, I don't know, flying it, taking it out to sea, running it, operating it in some way. They have to validate it.
And it's the classic, you know, verification versus validation, isn't it? Well, actually, no, here's a solution that works. And then, but that wasn't my problem.
Yeah.
You know, you might have delivered. And this is and again, it's something we talk about when we do this type of training together, Jess, isn't it? Is this the letter of the requirement rather than the intent behind it. And that's where you get to the situation, as you say, at the end of the project, here's the system, and the customer goes, yeah, but that's not what I wanted. And they go, yeah, no, but it's what you said, and we've delivered what you said you wanted. You still got to pay me. And they're going, yeah, but this is useless. I don't need this code. This is useless to me. Why would I, why would I accept that? And so that's it. And so it's the engagement with stakeholders, opening the dialogue, and as you say, validating. And I think you're right. That's the right word. Validating these needs before we rush on and start coming up with expensive and time-consuming solutions to things.
Absolutely, wonderful. Well, yeah, you're right. That was more. That was less tenuous than the usual. Not that I'm beefing on your other stories, but that was. I immediately went, oh, of course, yes, stakeholder engagement. Wonderful. Jon, as ever, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you very much. You know you're welcome back anytime.
Yes. And I'm going to go and get a cool drink, because it's very, very hot.
Yeah. Me too. All right. Well, listeners, if you... Oh, go on.
Well, we're almost in July of 2026. I think the next time we'll be recording one will be a live session, Jess, I believe.
It will. Oh, actually, we could do a promo for Sharkfest.
Should we do a promo for Sharkfest?
That would be so on our marketing. Listeners, if you love this podcast, if you've never actually met us in person or you have watched Scarecrow from afar, don't do that anymore. Come and be friends with us. September in Birmingham, UK, on the 29th and 30th of September, we have our MBSE Sharkfest, previously known as MBSE Phantasmagoria, Extravaganza and Spectacular, but this year it is Sharkfest. We've got 2 days of talks, panels, discussions, live shooting rabbits, mischief, inflatable sharks, fun and games, dinners out, networking, all for the bargain price, I think, of £85 for the 2 days. Much cheaper than a stuffy old conference, much more fun too. So we'd love to see you. Please go to our website, scarecrowconsultants.co.uk. There's all the information on there. That will take you to the Eventbrite, where you can book. Follow our LinkedIn for details. But we would love to see you there at Sharkfest, where we will be recording Shooting Rabbits Live, and I believe we already have the title for that one, something about the fuzz.
It's going to be Caught by the Fuzz.
Caught by the Fuzz. Okay, so if you want to hear Jon tell his stories live and watch my facial expressions get more and more confused and wild, then do come along. September, Birmingham, we'll see you there.
They're not as tame and family friendly, the live ones.
Because these are always PG. Always. Well, if that's not enough to encourage you all to come and see us in September, then I don't know what is. But yeah, all right, look at that. Tick, we've done our marketing for the day, Jon. And Smeaton's just arrived as well. He approves. All right. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again next month, or in September in Birmingham. And remember, if you'd like to get involved and come and share your story, you can contact us at rabbits@scarecrowconsultants.co.uk. And we will see you soon. Bye.